The stage lights illuminated the set as the audience buzzed with anticipation. Tonight was special, not just another episode of a popular late-night talk show, but a reunion of two beloved Hollywood stars, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Their on-screen chemistry had enchanted millions, and now they were finally sharing the spotlight again after years apart. The air crackled with excitement as the host strode onto the set, his confident steps matching the crowd's enthusiasm. He greeted everyone with his signature charm, but tonight his attention was solely on the two guests seated before him. Keanu, dressed casually yet impeccably in a dark jacket and jeans, radiated his trademark calmness. Beside him, Sandra exuded elegance in a simple yet stunning dress, her warm smile brightening the room. They appeared at ease next to each other, as if no time had passed since their last collaboration. The host began by acknowledging the obvious. These two actors were not just colleagues, they were icons who had left an indelible mark on cinema history. "When we think of action-packed romance," he said with a grin, "we think of Speed, and when we think of timeless love stories told through letters, we think of The Lake House. Having both of you here tonight feels like a dream come true for all of us." The audience erupted into applause, clearly in agreement. Keanu leaned back slightly in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, while Sandra rested her hands gently on her lap. There was something intriguing about their demeanor, relaxed yet aware of the moment's significance. It wasn't merely nostalgia that brought them together. There was an unspoken connection that seemed to run deeper than friendship. The host picked up on this immediately and decided to dive right in. "Let's start with Speed," he suggested, leaning forward slightly. "That movie wasn't just a hit, it became a cultural phenomenon. What do you remember most about working together on that film?" Sandra chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling as she glanced at Keanu. "Well, first of all, let me say this. Keanu is not just a great actor, he's also incredibly kind. I mean, imagine doing those stunts, running around buses, dodging explosions, and somehow keeping our cool. Mostly, Keanu kept his cool. I was terrified half the time." She laughed, and the audience joined in, loving her self-deprecating humor. Keanu shook his head modestly. "Come on, Sandra, you were amazing. You brought so much energy and heart to Annie. Honestly, I don't think anyone else could have pulled off that role the way you did." His tone was sincere, and it was impossible to miss the admiration in his voice. Sandra blushed slightly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. The host seized the opportunity to keep the momentum going. "It sounds like you two really clicked on set. Was it easy to build that chemistry, or did it take some work?" "Oh, it definitely felt natural," Sandra replied without hesitation. "From day one, Keanu made me feel supported. He has this quiet confidence that puts people at ease. Even during the toughest scenes, he'd crack a joke or give me a reassuring nod. It made a huge difference." Keanu nodded thoughtfully. "And Sandra, she's got this incredible ability to make everything seem effortless. Whether we were rehearsing dialogue or hanging out between takes, she always brought positivity to the set. That's not something you find in every co-star." Their words painted a vivid picture of what it must have been like on the set of Speed. The audience listened intently, imagining the adrenaline-fueled chaos mixed with moments of genuine camaraderie. But beneath the surface, there seemed to be more to their story, a bond that extended beyond professional respect. The host noticed this too and decided to steer the conversation toward their personal relationship. "You mentioned how supportive you were of each other during Speed. Did that carry over after filming Wrapped? Did you stay close friends?" For the first time, there was a pause. Sandra exchanged a glance with Keanu, and for a brief moment, the playful banter faded. Her expression softened as she considered the question. "To be honest, life got busy after Speed. We went our separate ways, focused on different projects, and didn't see each other as often as we might have liked." She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "But when we did reconnect, it felt like no time had passed. Some friendships are like that, you know? No matter how much distance there is, the connection remains." Keanu nodded slowly, his gaze steady. "Yeah, that's exactly right. Life pulls you in different directions, but certain people leave an impression that never fades. Sandra is one of those people." The sincerity in his voice sent a ripple through the audience. People leaned forward in their seats, sensing that this conversation was heading somewhere unexpected. The host, ever the professional, recognized the shift in tone and adjusted accordingly. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a glimpse into something profound. "So what changed?" the host asked gently. "What brought you two back together?" Sandra smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting a mix of nostalgia and gratitude. "Sometimes life has a way of reminding you of what truly matters. For me, reconnecting with Keanu reminded me of how rare it is to find someone who genuinely cares, not just about your success, but about you as a person." Keanu added, "And sometimes you realize that the people who mattered most deserve a second chance to be part of your life. When Sandra and I reconnected, it felt inevitable, like the universe was nudging us to pick up where we left off. The audience remained silent, hanging on to every word. There was an undeniable sense of authenticity in their exchange, a raw honesty that transcended the typical celebrity interview. As the segment continued, it became clear that this reunion wasn't just about reminiscing about old movies. It was about celebrating a friendship that had stood the test of time. By the time the host moved on to the next question, the mood in the room had shifted. What started as a light-hearted trip down memory lane had evolved into something far more meaningful. As the cameras rolled, capturing every nuance of their interaction, one thing was certain: this was a conversation no one would soon forget. The host, sensing the depth of emotion in the room, decided to take the conversation further. He leaned forward, his curiosity piqued by the subtle yet undeniable connection between Keanu and Sandra. "Let's talk about The Lake House," he suggested with a warm smile. "That movie was such a departure from speed. Instead of high-octane action, it was this beautiful, slow-burn romance told through letters. What was it like stepping into those roles after so many years apart?" Sandra tilted her head slightly as if sifting through memories. "You know, when I first read the script for The Lake House, I was immediately drawn to the story. It felt intimate, almost poetic. But what really made me say yes was knowing that Keanu would be part of it. There's something comforting about working with someone you already trust." Keanu nodded in agreement. "Yeah, exactly. By then, we'd both been through different experiences in our careers and personal lives. Coming back together for a project like The Lake House felt, I don't know, serendipitous, like fate was giving us another chance to create something meaningful together." The audience listened intently, captivated by their reflections. The host seized the moment to dig deeper. Was it strange at all reuniting after so much time had passed? Sandra chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Not really. Actually, it was the opposite. From the very first day on set, it felt natural, like slipping into an old pair of shoes. We didn't need to relearn how to work together because the foundation was already there. And honestly, that made everything easier." Keanu chimed in, his voice calm but filled with conviction. "It's funny, you can go years without seeing someone, but certain relationships have a way of staying alive in your mind." With Sandra, it wasn't just about picking up where we left off professionally, it was also about reconnecting on a human level. That bond translated directly into our performances. Their words painted a vivid picture of two actors who weren't just playing characters, they were channeling real emotions into their roles. The host, intrigued by this dynamic, asked, "How did you approach portraying that kind of long-distance love?" After all, Kate and Alex never actually meet in person throughout the entire movie. That must have been challenging. Most romantic films rely on physical chemistry, the stolen glances, the touches, the moments of closeness. But here, everything had to be conveyed through letters. So much of our job was about imagining the other person reading those words and feeling the weight behind them. In the pauses, Keanu added with a reflective smile, "There were so many quiet moments in the film where the silence spoke louder than any dialogue. For me, it was about understanding Alex's longing, not just for Kate, but for connection itself. That sense of yearning became the heart of the character." The host nodded, clearly impressed. "That's fascinating. It sounds like you both poured a lot of yourselves into those roles. Was there ever a scene that stood out to you as particularly emotional or memorable?" Sandra's expression softened as she recalled a specific moment. "There's one scene where my character writes a letter saying goodbye to Alex. She knows they'll never truly be able to meet, and it breaks her heart. Filming that scene was tough because it wasn't just acting, it felt personal, like I was saying goodbye to someone important in my own life." Keanu looked at her with quiet admiration. I remember watching Sandra during that scene and thinking, wow, she's really bringing it. It reminded me why I respect her so much as an actress. She has this ability to make even the smallest gestures feel monumental. Their mutual respect was palpable, and the audience couldn't help but feel moved by their sincerity. The host decided to shift gears slightly, steering the conversation toward the challenges they faced while making the film. Obviously, The Lake House was a departure from the usual Hollywood formula. Did you face any resistance or doubt about taking on such an unconventional project? Keanu shrugged nonchalantly. Not really resistance, but there were definitely questions. People wondered if audiences would connect with a story that unfolded entirely through letters. But I think that's what made it special. It wasn't trying to fit into a mold. It was creating its own. Sandra agreed wholeheartedly. Exactly. At the end of the day, it's about telling a story that resonates. Sure, The Lake House was different, but isn't that what art is supposed to do? Challenge us, move us, make us feel something new? The passion for storytelling shone brightly, and the host couldn't resist asking one final question before moving on. Looking back now, how do you think The Lake House impacted your friendship? Did working together again change anything between you? For a moment, neither actor spoke. Sandra glanced at Keanu, her eyes soft with emotion. Finally, she said, "I think it deepened our understanding of each other. Making that movie required vulnerability, not just as actors, but as people. You can't fake that kind of connection. It forced us to open up in ways we might not have otherwise." Keanu nodded slowly, his gaze steady. And sometimes those moments of vulnerability bring you closer. Working on the lake house reminded me of how rare it is to find someone who truly gets you, someone who doesn't judge you, who supports you no matter what. For me, Sandra has always been that person. The audience erupted into applause, touched by the raw honesty of their exchange. Even the host seemed momentarily speechless, unsure of how to follow such a heartfelt revelation. He took a sip of water, buying himself a few seconds to gather his thoughts. When he finally spoke again, his tone was softer, more reflective. "It's clear that your bond goes beyond just being co-stars. You've created something timeless, not just in your movies, but in your friendship too. And I think that's what makes your story so inspiring." As the segment continued, the mood in the room remained electric. Every word exchanged between Keanu and Sandra carried weight. Every glance spoke volumes. What had started as a nostalgic trip down memory lane had evolved into something far deeper, a celebration of connection, resilience, and the power of human relationships. By the time the host moved on to the next topic, the audience was completely engrossed. They weren't just watching an interview anymore. They were witnessing a masterclass in authenticity. As the cameras rolled, capturing every nuance of their interaction, it was impossible not to feel grateful for the reminder that some bonds are truly irreplaceable. The host, sensing the emotional undercurrent of the conversation, decided to steer it toward a more personal direction. He leaned forward slightly, his expression softening as he addressed both actors. "You've both had incredible careers, but I think everyone here would agree that your journeys haven't always been easy. Life has thrown its share of challenges at you, losses, heartbreaks, moments of solitude. How have those experiences shaped who you are today?" Sandra took a deep breath, her eyes briefly dropping to her lap before meeting the host's gaze. "Life is unpredictable," she began, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "There are highs and lows, and sometimes the lows feel like they'll never end. But I've learned that pain doesn't define you, it shapes you. It teaches you resilience, empathy, and how to appreciate the people who truly matter." Keanu nodded in agreement, his expression thoughtful. "Yeah, I think we all carry scars from things we've been through. Some are visible, some aren't. But what I've realized is that those scars can become part of your strength. They remind you of where you've been and help you figure out where you're going." Their words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom were nodding along or exchanging knowing glances. The host, clearly moved by their candor, pressed further. "Do you think those shared experiences, those moments of vulnerability, have brought you closer as friends?" For a moment, neither actor spoke. Sandra glanced at Keanu, her lips curving into a faint smile. Finally, she said, "Absolutely. When you go through tough times, you start to see people differently. You notice who shows up for you, who listens without judgment, who stands by you even when things get messy. And Keanu?" She paused, searching for the right words. "He's one of those people. He doesn't just hear you, he sees you. That kind of support means everything." Keanu shifted slightly in his seat, his usual calm demeanor giving way to something more reflective. "I think adversity has a way of stripping away pretenses. It forces you to be honest not just with others, but with yourself. And when you find someone who accepts you exactly as you are, flaws and all, well, that's rare. That's precious." The audience was silent, hanging on to every word. There was an undeniable authenticity in their exchange, a raw honesty that transcended the typical celebrity interview. The host, sensing the gravity of the moment, decided to delve deeper. "Keanu, you've often been described as one of the most genuine people in Hollywood. What is it about Sandra that makes her so special to you?" Keanu hesitated for a split second, as if carefully choosing his words. Then, with quiet conviction, he replied, "Sandra is extraordinary not because of her talent or success, though those are undeniable. It's her heart. She has this ability to make people feel seen, valued. Even during my darkest days, she never let me forget that I wasn't alone. That's not something everyone does or can do." Sandra's eyes glistened, and she quickly blinked away tears. "Stop it," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "You're going to make me cry on national television." The audience erupted into laughter, breaking the tension momentarily. But beneath the levity, there was a profound sense of connection between the two actors, a bond forged through shared struggles and unwavering support. The host, ever the professional, seized the opportunity to keep the conversation flowing. "It sounds like you've both been each other's anchors during difficult times. Do you think that's why your friendship has endured? Because you understand what the other person is going through?" Sandra nodded emphatically. "Exactly. Friendship isn't just about celebrating the good times. It's about being there for the hard ones, too. Keanu and I have seen each other at our best and our worst, and somehow that's only made us stronger. Just like we've built this unspoken trust that no matter what happens, we'll always have each other's backs. Keanu added, and I think that's what true friendship is, a safe space, a place where you can be vulnerable without fear of judgment. With Sandra, I've always felt like I could be myself completely and utterly. That's rare in this industry or anywhere, really. Their reflections painted a vivid picture of a relationship rooted in mutual respect, empathy, and unconditional support. The audience listened intently, captivated by the depth of their connection. For many, it was a poignant reminder of the importance of having people in your life who truly understand you. The host, sensing the weight of the moment, decided to lighten the mood slightly. Okay, enough of the heavy stuff, he joked, earning a round of laughter from the crowd. Let's talk about something fun. If you could relive one moment from your time working together, whether it's on Speed, the lake house, or anything else, what would it be? Sandra grinned, her earlier melancholy replaced by a playful sparkle. Oh, that's easy. Filming the bus scenes in Speed. Those stunts were insane, but they were also so much fun. I remember looking over at Keanu during one particularly wild sequence and thinking, we're actually doing this. It felt surreal but exhilarating. Keanu laughed, shaking his head. I don't know how you stayed so calm during those scenes. Me? I was holding on for dear life. But yeah, those moments were unforgettable. It reminded me why I love what I do, the thrill of creating something bigger than yourself. Their light-hearted banter brought warmth back into the room, balancing the earlier emotional intensity. The host smiled, clearly pleased with how seamlessly the conversation had flowed. It's amazing how much joy and meaning you found in your work and in each other's company. Speaking of which, let me ask you this. Do you think friendships like yours are rare in Hollywood, or is it possible to find that kind of connection anywhere? Sandra considered the question for a moment before responding. I think it's possible, but it takes effort. In Hollywood especially, relationships can sometimes feel transactional. People come into your life for a project and then disappear once it's done. But with Keanu, it was different. From the start, our connection wasn't based on convenience or circumstance. It was real, and that's what's kept us grounded. Keanu nodded, adding, Hollywood can be a lonely place if you let it. But if you focus on building genuine relationships with colleagues, friends, whoever, you'll find that it's not so bad. Sandra and I have managed to stay close despite the chaos, and that says a lot about the kind of person she is. Their words carried a universal truth, one that resonated far beyond the confines of the entertainment industry. As the segment drew to